Story 1. You can push your body to the limit in your 20s, exercise, powerlifting, etc., and recover easily. If you aren't careful, your 30s are a wake-up call. Strains and injuries become permanent. Story 2. Keep the weight off, look after your teeth. Stay clear of debt. Most importantly, have fun and make every day count. Before you know it, your 20s will be all but a distant memory. Story 3. Everyone is giving decent advice, but as someone whose 20s were lost in a spiral of drugs, debt, self-hatred, job failures, and just generally being kicked at every turn by being alive right now, do not worry if you are not doing everything perfectly right. Very few people actually have the means and opportunity to succeed that early, or to even address most of the advice in this thread at any point in their lives. Avoiding debt entirely is a privilege afforded to few. Chances are you will almost never have what feels like enough money. The system is built that way, and it is not your fault. Do not beat yourself up for figuring it out as you go. Life can, and absolutely will, throw curveballs that you cannot handle. Agonizing over whether you are doing it right will seem really insignificant when you get diagnosed with cancer and face medical bankruptcy while fighting for your life, or your mom dies of a stroke before you can say goodbye. Also, comparison is the thief of joy, and ignorance is bliss. Story 4. If you are still on friendly terms with people from school or university, make a conscious effort to maintain those relationships. I'm in my mid-40s, and through no deliberate thought, I am out of contact with everyone from school or university. Life gets in the way, and suddenly you haven't seen your best friend from school in 20 years. Story 5. Fiber sounds super lame, but I swear I wish 20s me paid attention to this. When your system is more efficient, so are you. You have way more energy and you can think more clearly because you're less sluggish and tired. Absolute game changer. Story 6. That toxic partner you are with, whom you think is the one, and you just keep trying and trying and trying, just stop. You are in your 20s. This will not work. Move on. Story 7. Low-cost index funds with regular investment across the life of the fund. Reinvest dividends. Keep it to a simple 2 or 3 fund portfolio so you don't get overwhelmed. Story 8. Retirement life insurance your testicles. If you have access to modern healthcare, testicular cancer is very survivable anyway, but if you find out early, you can avoid chemotherapy. As someone who just barely didn't find out early enough, I'll say you really don't want the chemotherapy if you can help it. It's the second most common type of cancer after breast cancer, and about 1 in 20 guys gets it, mostly between the ages of 20 and 40. So check your testicles. Story 9. Save money, but don't make that your entire life goal. Still do things with friends, and set aside some money for travel and experiences. Give yourself a healthy weekly entertainment budget. In your 30s, people have families and committed relationships. In your 20s, I could rally people for a group trip on a week's notice and meet up regularly. Sitting out your 20s socially sucks in your 30s. Story 10. Pursuing business in your 20s and neglecting other things like friends, relationships, and mental health will have consequences that you can't just undo in a few months after you reach your business goals. Story 11. The only real wealth is your health. Do not trade it or risk it for anything. It is the only thing that stays with you until the end. All your relationships, purchases, and most of your memories of your day-to-day life will disappear. Steve Jobs would have been my age now. I have near-perfect health. How much of his money do you think he would have given to have this now, if he had known? All of it. Health and your life are the same thing. Story 12. Your generation will have life even harder in the endgame financially. Don't be careless with your money and don't damage your credit score. Also, don't buy things for status. Story 13. I don't know how useful this advice is. These are mainly regrets. The ones who took chances will tell you to be cautious and vice versa. The ones who live their life free will tell you to save for retirement and vice versa. No matter what you do, if your tendency is to regret, you will find things to regret later in life. And if your personality is to be carefree, you won't spend time looking back. So, in a way, it is refreshing to know it doesn't matter much. Story 14. Establish good habits around food, alcohol, spending and saving, and exercise now. It's a lot harder to get a handle on that in your 40s than it is in your 20s. Story 15. The single most important decision you will ever make is who to spend your life with. Looks fade, and so do warm, fuzzy feelings. Find a partner who is your best friend and with whom you align on core beliefs and values. I just turned 40 and hit 21 years of marriage. My best friend and I are enjoying the benefits of the life we've built together. And honestly, we are in coast mode as our investments are paying off and life is super easy. I've watched way too many friends who did not choose wisely have to start over again in their 30s or later when things fell apart. On a related note, every sexual partner you choose has the potential to become your child's parent, especially as abortion becomes increasingly difficult to get. Being hot and crazy makes for an incredible night, but it makes for a miserable 18 years that follow. Story 16. Your looks may fade fast. Take care of yourself. If you are a womanizer, women are not going to deal with that as you get older unless you have a lot of money. If you find a girl you love, stay with her. That is rare. The dopamine and pornography addiction can ruin you. Do not let it. There is not always something better. Get therapy. Story 17. Just because you dated in high school doesn't mean you have to marry them. Practice safe sex and please move out of your hometown. There is so much to see and do. You don't have to have 3 kids by 25 and live down the street from your parents, unless that's what you really want. Story 18. Don't focus so much on your career. Work as hard as you need to make as much money as you need to support yourself and your family if applicable, but don't grind any harder than that. Your job doesn't care about you and never will. The second you are unable to work as hard as the standard they've become accustomed to, they'll replace you. And when you're lying on your deathbed reflecting back on your life, your job isn't going to be the important part. Focus on the important parts. Family, friends, community, and leisure. Your job supports that part of your life. Never let it come first. Story 19. Go brush your teeth now. Always wash your balls and anus. If you want people to touch it, make sure it's clean. Yoga. Sign up now and praise your functional back and knees in 20 years. Put sunscreen on. Start saving for retirement. Do it. Exercise. Statistically, your heart is what's going to kill you. Story 20. Their knees, they think that their body will last forever. Sorry to tell you guys, the knees are the first to go. Saving for the future, I'm not talking about putting 20% of your salary away, but a bit here and there. Get yourself a big bottle for small notes at the end of the day. It'll mount up over the years. Pretty much listen to Baz Luhrmann. Everybody's free to wear sunscreen. There is so much good advice in this. Story 21. As the wife of a man in that age range, I would like to point out to the younger gentlemen to stop putting so much emphasis on size and focus more on skill. If you can keep your partner happy in the bedroom, they will be happier overall. Also, put some energy into helping them with household responsibilities. Not helping with the housework is usually one of the biggest issues after intimacy that people complain about in relationship counseling. This I say not just as a wife, but as a couples counselor. Story 22. Get your retirement plan started and dialed in. Compound interest will help you most at the youngest possible age. Figure out how your pension, 401k, individual retirement account, and others work so you can maximize them. Or understand whatever the retirement plan of your desired career field is and how it works if you don't have one yet. It will save future you a lot of stress and save you a lot of good years versus struggling to get up to speed in middle age for less benefit. Story 23. Your hearing, especially if you use ear pods or headphones and play your music loud, can and does take a toll. Tinnitus seems to be a growing issue. Story 24. The long-term effects of alcohol, marijuana, and violence. Deciding what kind of man you want to be, what kind of partner and parent you want to be, and what you need to be doing today, this week, this month, this year to get there. Taking responsibility for your own actions and their consequences, for yourself and others. Story 25. Start stretching now. It only takes a few minutes a day. I stretch for 5 minutes after I wake up and for 5 minutes before I go to bed. It makes a difference in how I feel and how I sleep. Take care of your teeth. Use a dentist-recommended mouthwash. Brush 2 to 3 times a day. Dentists want you to floss. I don't because I'm lazy, but I do keep up with mouthwashing and brushing. Exercise consistently. You feel good now. You feel strong now. You have all the energy you need now. It won't stay that way if you don't stay in shape. Once you hit your 30s, that whole naturally in shape thing goes out the window. So start now. Literally, even if it's just 20 minutes, just get some exercise consistently, like 4 to 5 times a week. Mix up some cardio with strength training. You don't need to get ripped. Just stay active and work up a sweat for 20 to 30 minutes a day. Learn to be patient. Patience is a virtue. Things will not happen according to your personal schedule. Romance, career, pay, getting that car or house or whatever is going to take time and won't happen based on your personal schedule. Be patient. Be respectful. Be thoughtful in the things that you do and say. Things will work out eventually if you are patient, respectful, thoughtful, and keep working at your goals. Just be patient. Story 26. Make sure you develop emotionally. Most male culture is so absent of emotional development because in the past we could attract women based on our income and social status. Now women have their own money and social status, but men don't know how to interact with women without trying to have sex with them. Story 27. You will realize that you are only young for a part of your life and you are older for the rest of it. I would make decisions that favor the rest of your life. That's not to say don't have fun being young. My advice is to ask yourself if your older self would approve of any decisions that you make when you're young because you will quickly become that person. Story 28. Your 20s are not the peak of your life. Do not fall into disrespectful discourse and attitude towards others. There is no such thing as a real man or an alpha male. Story 29. These two things are huge and what I would change if I could go back. And they are foundational to pretty much anything you want to do in life, whether it is getting married and having kids and a career, or whether you want to be single and travel the world or anything. Habits. Eating, sleeping, planning, working out, etc. Your quality of life in your 40s and beyond will be directly related to the habits you make and work on in your 20s. Cut out the unhealthy eating, exercise, learn new things, do hard things. Make a plan and work your plan. Daily, yearly, and 5 years. Do not get distracted by things that do not fulfill your plan. This is my biggest regret. If you do not have a vision for where you want to be, you will look up when you are 40 and think, hold on, I do not want to be here. Story 30. If you find a wonderful person you are passionate about and love spending time with, do not be dissuaded from making a commitment because of the paradox of choice. I live in a major city with seemingly endless dating options, but applications have ruined romantic endeavors for me because the whole thing feels so cheap and boxed in a way. It has gotten to the point that unless I am super craving some human interaction with a stranger, I will not date anyone that I did not meet at a normal, real social function before. I say this as someone who made mistakes with the love of his life and regrets it almost every single day. Story 31. Time will dominate starting capital when it comes to investments, so start early even if you start small. If you put $10 a month into a Standard & Poor's exchange-traded fund every month of your 20s, you'll have about $53,000 in your retirement account when you are 65. Doing the same thing in your 30s will only make you $21,000. Roth individual retirement accounts are your best friend when you don't make much money. Story 32. Bank your sperm and get a vasectomy. Make sure any children you have are your careful, thoughtful decision with the right woman. Nothing will ruin your life for years like an unplanned pregnancy or a pregnancy with the wrong woman. Story 33. Have fun but plan for the future. Do not delay getting all of the education you need because it is really hard to go back for that master's or doctorate. Being alone in your 40s is not as cool as being alone in your 20s. A wife and kids is not lame, and in my 30s, I feel much more put together than my single coworkers. Honestly, there is zero envy to be single. Story 34. Listening before demanding to be heard. I don't mean to strangers on the internet or influencers, but real people in your lives. A lot of men in their 20s tell me they're lonely, but when I ask them how often they reach out to other men to hang out and hear what others are going through, they usually say not often. Then, they complain that it's hard to find friends. Story 35. 1. Forming habits around health. Namely, taking care of it. Guys in their 20s think they are immortal. Yet how you eat now and how you take care of your body will determine your health and happiness as you age. Forming habits around money. Guys in their 20s blow their money recklessly. If you save away $50 a month in a 401k plan in your 20s, you won't believe how much that will total by the time you reach your 60s. Compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. Learn how money and investing work now. Don't be a slave to your appetites. Many a guy has ended up writing 18 years of child support checks to a woman they didn't particularly like. Why? Because they thought having an orgasm was the most important thing in the universe. While taking care of your body and finances, don't forget your mind. If you haven't read a book since the day you graduated, it's time to start. Cultivate interests. Try new things. For the love of all that's holy, don't be the dumb slob who just camps out in front of the video game console or sports networks night after night. Those things are fun and good, but they are not life. Don't have a job. Have a career. Even if you don't have a degree, you can learn new things and pick up new skills. Your ability to constantly adapt, to always be called on as reliable, to be able to keep pace with the ever-changing demands of your chosen field, will be the difference between making a decent living and barely scraping by.